This is part 2 of step 2, reading the 12 and 12. My name is Voss, I'm an alcoholic, and you're on the Vossaholic channel. And we kind of stopped off at the word right there on page 27 in the first paragraph. Right there, step 2, gently and gradually began to inflate my life. Infiltrate. Infiltrate my life. I can't say upon what occasion or upon what day I came to believe in a power greater than myself, but I certainly have that belief now. To acquire it, I had only to stop fighting and practice the rest of the AA's program as enthusiastically as I could. So I'm trying to get the best lighting. I'm on the Android phone. I'm going to have to switch this chair around to catch the sunlight on my face, because that's not like my guardian angel, although it might be at the top of my head. I think from my experience, I wanted to share about this in the last video, and I'll just preface this. I don't know how long this video is going to last. I don't know how much recording content I've used on this phone, but basically I'm just trying to get through this. And the way that I feel when I just read this from right there, step 2, gently and gradually began to infiltrate my life. I can't say upon what occasion or upon what day I came to believe in a power greater than myself, but I certainly have that belief now. To acquire it, I had only to stop fighting and practice the rest of AA's program as enthusiastically as I could. This could be Bill Wilson or Dr. Bob or a collaborative or just Bill himself. I don't know who wrote this specifically, but it speaks to me because it is sort of, I could say these exact words, where it's when you surrender. Like, stop fighting means pretty much to me to surrender. Okay, and practice, all right? This isn't the championship game. This is practice, the rest of AA's program. And honestly, we all come into AA with different things, right? Me as an only child growing up with a single mom, I think a lot of my issues till I probably hit mid-30s, early 30s, was perfection. I had to have fulfillment, and things had to be perfect. That's sort of like obsessive, compulsive, and neurotic, to be honest with you. Perfection, I came out to Utah 9 years ago, and I think that word itself shoved down the throats of new kids, family members that are understanding religion, causes an expectation that's unreasonable. And they've changed their verbiage, and they've changed to strive, just strive. And so strive is sort of like, try to go to more meetings, try to find a sponsor, try to work the steps. There's so much available to do that means you're moving towards your next drink. And I've heard that. I love that. And people have said to me, either you're moving towards your next drink or you're moving away from it. And so I'd rather be moving away from my drink. It's sort of the phrase, there's another doozy. I'm closer to my next drink than, I can't remember that one. Basically, it says that the longer you stay sober, you're closer to your next drink, which means that you forget your bottom. You forget what it was like to scrap and to be hugging the throne or be thrown in jail because of a DUI. And you'll hear that I'm closer to my next drink and I'm further than my last one, which is kind of like, makes you think, because it's a little confusing. And if you're a sponsee of mine, ask me about that. We can deep dive into that a little bit more. I'm sort of pumped that I'm able to make some headway on this page and get through it. So we're at about 5 minutes now. I'm going to continue reading on the last paragraph, and it's in quotations on page 27 of the 12 and 12. This is only one's man opinion based on his own experience, of course. I must quickly assure you that AA's tread innumerable paths in their quest for faith. If you don't care for the one I've suggested, you'll be sure to discover one that suits if only you look and listen. That's good. You know, you can't control alcoholics. It's like herding cats. You're not going to catch all those cats. Or they're going to do whatever they damn well please. It's just a suggestion. So that's good. It really loosens the reins. I mean, as drunks, alcoholics, addicts, people are just so defiant when they come in and unsurrendered. And if you tell them to do one thing on spite, they'll do the opposite. So you don't tell people what to do. You share your story, your experience, and your strength and your hope. Moving right along, continuing to finish page 27. Many a man like you has begun to solve the problem by the method of substitution. You can, if you wish, make AA itself your higher power. God is group of drunks. That's a reference point. Here's a very large group of people who have solved their alcohol problem. In this respect, they are certainly a power greater than you. You have not even come close to a solution. Not you, sorry, I'll read that. In this respect, they are certainly a power greater than you, who have not even come close to a solution. Surely you can have faith in them. Even this minimum of faith will be enough. You will find many members who have crossed the threshold just this way. All of them will tell you that once across, their faith broadened. Page 28. And deepened. So their faith deepens and broadens. Look, I'm doing this selflessly, spending time on a Saturday to deep dive into this for people to have for all time. I have a concern that people staying inside and not going to meetings, it's going to make them crazy and want to hurt themselves and drink more or self-destruct, commit suicide. All these things of the adversary. It's horrible. So we're on page 28. Relieved of the alcohol obsession, their lives uncountably transformed. They came to believe in a higher power, and most of them begin to talk of God. Yeah, so it's a beautiful thing when you find faith, when you find a relationship with God. It levies the load. It gives you hope and trust that everything will be provided for you, and it's a real thing. Now I want to kind of go back to page 27 because there was some feelings and thoughts that came up for me that they may have come up for you too, and I want to just have some resolve and clarification. It says, many a man like you has begun to solve the problem by the method of substitution. Okay, so yeah, you can solve alcohol through overeating, right? You can gorge every day like it's Thanksgiving, and you can become fat and be on all kinds of sugars. And you know what? Here's the joke. If you're an alcoholic and you used to drink and drive and you start getting sober, alcohol, I don't know what it is, 65%, 75% sugar. So I always have heard and recommend this to my sponsees. Get your favorite sugars, okay? Mine is Haagen-Dazs peanut butter chocolate ice cream. I love a Nugo vegan bar from Whole Foods. It's like $1.59. Love that. And it's dark chocolate. Love tons of dark chocolate. Any dark chocolate. And the joke is they can't pull you over for being fat. Okay, so you might gain some weight. It's sugar weight. You can work on weight loss the next year. If you're smoking cigarettes, to get over the substitution, levies the load. And I'm okay with it. I'm not a smoker, but I believe in one thing at a time. And so if you want to quit smoking in your first year, I would not suggest that. I would suggest you smoke as much as you like. And then once you get a year sober, you've worked your steps, then take on quitting smoking. It's very difficult. I quit. It's been 10 years and 7 days since my last cigar. Who's counting, right? 9/18/2010. Pumped to hit. This is the first thing I've ever done in double digits. I came close to 9 years in my 30s, but heck, this is just wonderful. Another thing that I I want to pull on a little bit. We're at the 10-minute mark. Page 27, about faith. I'm finding a higher power if you don't have it, if it's lost. And this is maybe going to be helpful for people that you work with if you get asked to be a sponsor, and you can kind of relate to them off of a reference point of chewing on this with me. And I'm grateful you're here with me and sharing your time. This is only one's man opinion based on his own experience, of course. I must quickly assure you that AAs tread innumerable paths in their quest for faith. So some people, it's nature. You know, I've been with some nature folks, and they're like, this makes me feel ethereal, you know, just so close to God to be in nature. And, you know, that's their thing. That's okay. We don't judge, you know. We don't wear black robes for an occupation. If you do, then you are a judge. But if you're not, don't effing judge anyone. You know, be there for support. And I you know, it says in the big book not to criticize alcoholics, especially when they're new. You know, it's wielding power that maybe you're not really fully aware of the responsibilities of that power yet. So just try not to criticize others or judge others. And here's a joke for you. You know, you come to AA and they tell you to stick with the winners. But how can you stick with the winners if you're not supposed to judge people? I didn't preface that joke right, but, you know, I got to prepare my stand-up comedy, I guess. And, yeah. If you don't care for the one I suggested, you'll be sure to discover one that suits you if only you look and listen. So when you sort of watch people in meetings discuss their higher power, some people, literally it's a rock or a doorknob. Like, I've heard people say that. It's a thing. One guy in Vegas I got sober with, I think it was a candle that he put a picture of his sponsor on, and that was his higher power. And the other thing I want to share is really kind of funny, is like, so when you take on step 2, it's because you finished step 1 and you're working on figuring out a higher power. Well, here's one concept of a higher power. So if you are down on a main street area and you decide to just urinate and relinquish your bladder, you will probably be met with a higher power. You know, somebody coming to call the police on you, the police coming themselves, a shop owner coming out with a broom. You know, you just never know. So a higher power is definitely something for you to discover what works for you, because this should be a selfish program for you your first year, you know. And you have to play offense and defense. Offense is going to a meeting. Defense is sort of like defending your sobriety, like people around you that drink. Choosing how long you stay at a company party or a wedding where there's alcohol or an open bar. That was one of the big problems for me when I was early sobriety, is I just dreaded going to like a family wedding with an open bar, because my history had been, I would go and, you know, I would be like the wedding crashers and be wild and try to fool around with the sweet, hot, beautiful smelling girls I dance with at family weddings, which is inappropriate and caused a lot of disrespect, actually, and a lot of much more cleanup and wreckage and resentment, and it's just not who we are. You know, it's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde when we're on drugs and alcohol. We're somebody else. You know, I'll say this again. I've said in earlier videos that the drink or the drug takes the person. I'm sorry. The drink, I'll just keep it simple. The man takes the drink takes the drink, and then the drink takes the man. Okay? And you can relate that to if you're a female catching wind of this, or if you take a certain drug. Drug is a drug is a drug. Alcohol is ethanol. Ethanol is a drug. It's a depressant. All right, so I think that's a thoroughly beat horse. I don't know if the comments are enabled, but you can certainly deep dive into that or ask questions or review this later. I know for me, when I have embarked on listening to somebody, one person, I honestly, even like YouTube motivational videos by these awesome gurus I adore and love, I will sometimes listen to it multiple times just because it's so impactful. I really want to almost memorize it, you know. So here we are. We're on the first paragraph of page 28. We're at the 15-minute mark. Consider next the plight of those who once had faith but lost it. There will be those who have drifted into indifference, those filled with self-sufficiency who have cut themselves off, those who have become prejudiced against religion, and those who are downright defiant because God has failed to fulfill their demands. Can AA experience tell all these they may still find a faith that works? That's a little typo, I think. Can AA's experience tell all the... Oh, it's like, can the AA experience tell all these people they may still find a faith that works? I mean, yeah, you can. You have to... Look, I could relate to this paragraph in a big way. When I first came to AA, I was a young kid. I was like 22, 23. And I had a best friend who was on the Howard Stern show. I've mentioned this before. He was nicknamed Smelly James. He was lactose intolerant. He would fart in a sound booth when he had regular milk. And so Stern called him Smelly James. And this guy had Crohn's disease as a boy. And Crohn's is awful, but he single-handedly won his senior year wrestling match championship, last match to win the high school title, and he fought out of the Crohn's. Epic, heroic story. When I met him, he was 33-ish, and we went to like the Oz Fest and went in the mosh pit and had a Saturday fun. Instead of going to be a golf caddy and work 2 loops that day, I went to a summer concert in California. It was wonderful. So this buddy of mine, he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, MS, and he started to not feel his hip area when he was sleeping with his girlfriend, and he'd have issues shifting his Jeep Wrangler, and eventually he took his own life through Percocet, and that was when Percocet first came out back in '96, an opiate. You know, we get angry at God. I was angry. I was angry at God. I was like, how can you let this happen, God? Well, I've lived in Utah 9 years now, and you hear about the Mormons believing in what's called free agency, which is like their power of choice. So this young man chose to deal with his emotions that way, and I had a few warning signs, but I didn't know what warning signs were then. He was like giving me his phone when brick phones were the thing, and he was giving away his stuff, and that's what people do before they commit suicide, because they have that intention. And if you know the warning signs, you can catch them. I have this weird jump tooth right there. It's screwy. I need my teeth done, but it kind of causes me to talk weird. But I am pretty emotional right now thinking about that old friend. But that was one of the times of the 3 that I was detached from God, and I blamed God because, like it says in this thing, God has failed to fulfill our demands, their demands. You know, I believe in God, and I know in the traditions of the Bible and the book, it's like a man with a white beard and all that. And a lot of people, you know, you can choose your own higher power as long as it's a power greater than yourself, okay? And I know that there is a source out there that fulfills my needs, that takes care of my needs, not my wants. And that's me sharing my belief system with you. And, you know, this little paragraph's about people who, they become despondent. You know, when you drink alcohol, they call alcoholic spirits. And I've had full evidence by my own experience and by viewing and listening to the other experiences of others that I trust that there are entities out there that are of the adversary. They are demonic. And I do believe that there are angels out there that are of the heavens from God and Jesus Christ. and there's good and bad, if you want to just break it down that way. And I believe that if you cultivate the relationship with God, as I call it, or your higher power, or the great creator, some people say in Native American cultures, my creator, then you will start to have the things that you need fulfilled in your life. Kid you not. Alrighty, page 28, second paragraph. Sometimes AA comes harder to those who have lost or rejected faith than to those who never had any faith at all, for they think they have tried faith and found it wanting. Wow. So if you grew up with like faith and then you went out there a while and drinking and drugging and you lost your faith, it might be hard to restore it, it seems like, than if you never had faith and you start to find it. That's sort of what that means. They have tried the way of faith and the way of no faith. Since both ways have proved bitterly disappointing, they have concluded there is no place whatever for them to go. The roadblocks of indifference, fancied by self-sufficiency, prejudice, and defiance, often prove more solid and formidable for these people than any erected by unconvinced agnostic or even militant atheist. Religion says the existence of God can be proved. The agnostic says it can't be proved. The atheist claims proof of the non-existence of God. Obviously, the dilemma of the wanderer from faith is that of profound confusion, right? Is that of profound confusion? Yeah, I've been there. He thinks himself lost to the comfort of any conviction at all. He cannot attain in even a small degree of assurance of the believer, the agnostic, or the atheist. He is the bewildered one. Powerful statement, powerful little sentence. End of page 28. We're going to wrap it up here. It's been 22 minutes. I'm gassing out. Last paragraph, any number of AAs can say to the drifter, yes, we were diverted from our childhood faith too. The overconfidence of youth was too much for us. Of course, we were glad that good home and religious training had given us certain values. We were still sure that we ought to be fairly honest, tolerant, and just, that we ought to be ambitious and hardworking. We became convinced that simple rules of fair play and decency would be enough. Woo! Wow. That is a lot to cover. That is a massive amount of opinion and perspective and spiritual perception. You know, it's sort of like three roads, right? There's sort of like three claims and a lot to discuss, debate, but a drunk may have lost their way, you know, they may have literally lost their way, where they get their fulfillment from the spirit of alcohol. You know, alcohol is a spirit. So here's one thing I think is that me in my feeling and wanting to have people think that I'm like in my early 30s or mid 30s and I'm pushing 50 at 47 here. I'm grateful for all the stories I've heard and all the wisdom and all the debates and all the discussion. And one of the coolest things I've ever heard was from a man who worked as a mortuary, you know, basically worked with the dead and medical professionals that have to, unfortunately, if someone dies on their operating table or they can't be saved, then, you know, the medical inspection, the autopsy is done as to the reasons for their death and what have you. And one of the trippiest things I've ever heard is that when the person was close to death, they weighed them. And they weighed, like, take me for example, little petite, little old me, 262 pounds, almost 6'4", that I was 262 pounds, .7, okay? And then, I don't even like to talk about this, but I'll just say for a hypothetical example, when I passed, I was 262 pounds even. So where did the .7 poundage go? I think it was like .07. Let's put it that way. Basically, it's the weight of the soul. It's a thing. Look it up, ask about it, trip on it, enjoy it. Your soul has a weight to it. It's like maybe the weight of your energy. Like your soul has energy. People have energy inside them. It's the soul energy. Isn't that crazy? Trippy, but it's a thing. And when you're drinking on a bar stool, you're talking about sports, the games, your ex-girlfriend, ex this one, job, boss, money, stresses, work. You're not talking about the weight of somebody's soul and medical examiners deciding that from an autopsy after a person passes. But I really strongly believe that there is a God out there and a benevolent being of good. And I think if you seek that faith-based strength of something you can't see, that eventually you will grow closer to it and God will bless you. You will be blessed. So I think the adversary in these times wants the younger generations to be fluid, like gender fluid, where they are denouncing their sexuality and it's okay. And I think that causes an enormous amount of confusion. And this is me putting my 2 cents in. And even look at my shirt. Okay, Mickey Mouse, which is supposed to be male. You know, he's got yellow shoes on and pink glasses, and he's got a mustache. And this is kind of a funny Disney shirt. But I think the adversary wants division, divide and conquer. And that's how you can crush someone. Is you can divide them from their faith-based family, their loved ones, and you can conquer and crush them. And I think that's what the adversary is doing now with the young people, is that they are told they can have any identity they want and that they can be both feminine and masculine, and they can change their body parts. And granted, you can, freedom of speech. However, you have to I'm not telling you, but I'm suggesting you ought to consider the perspective of what path you're being led down on, by what source, good or bad, black energy or white energy, the white wolf or the black wolf, God, Heavenly Father, or the adversary, the devil himself, wants to divide and conquer you. And there's a symbol of a demon with a goat's head and female breasts and like maybe pan goat legs and hooves on a throne, and it's the Baphomet. And the Baphomet is metaphorical for the unicorn, and the speech about the rainbows is metaphor for the homosexual community. And if you know your Bible, you're going to realize that there are stories of Sodom and Gomorrah, okay? And these places, probably big cities, where eventually anything went, and people were so open to become bisexual, homosexual, all these different gender identity types. And what that does, in my opinion, this is only my opinion, is that it causes separation. It causes division. And why do you want to divide something? It's because you want to conquer it. And so, could be like we're towards the fall of Rome. Rome kind of became that. So, I made a video earlier, and I want to wrap it up on this. On Netflix, watch The Social Dilemma. Watch it a few times. Really own it. Really understand it. And that will sort of guide you towards why there's a massive polarization in the United States. They're not united anymore. I mean, I think we would probably even experience a name change. Like, Russia used to be called USSR, okay? I think that there's such. I think the pot is getting stirred by evil powers so bad that it's causing a division between the older, wiser elders that we should respect and learn from and consider their opinion and their views because they have lived longer and had more experiences, which is just kind of Buddhist maybe, to respect your elders. And when I say elder, I'm not referring to like, Mormon missionaries here in Utah. I'm talking about people who are older than you. Respect your elders. And what's occurring is now everyone is stuck on their phones. Even me, I'm kind of stuck on this phone trying to be of service because I'm an ornery bastard. Literally, I'm a fatherless man, which is called a bastard. And I'm ornery. I will go to the fight. I will engage in the fight. And I will have victory in a way to win a battle because I know that my soul will go to heaven. And I will fight for my belief systems because I believe in Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ and God, as I like to call. And I'm trying to be like respectful to not say him as a male, because then that